Welcome to a special presentation of Sellout Crowd, Conversations with Coach. I'm Bob Stoops. I'm taking time to talk with my friends and colleagues in the sports world to get caught up and share stories. But first, I want to say thanks to these sponsors, Rose Hill Builders, First Fidelity Bank, and Louie's Bar and Grill. Today, I'm joined by none other than the world-renowned Jim Ross. JR, old JR. I'm joined by my good friend, Jim Ross. Good old JR, as they like to say in the WWE community. But and great Sooner fan, great friend of mine and Carol's. And I appreciate you getting on with me here today, JR.
You bet, Bobby. Anytime, anything for you, you know that.
Well,
friends help friends. That's what we do.
Yep, and I got to get on your weekly podcast. I need some more publicity. You know what I mean? You're world renowned. I mean, the whole world knows JR, and so I got to get in some of those spaces.
We can make that happen.
Hey, let me ask you real fast. It's just after New Year's. You've been watching all these games.
Yeah.
Talk about the games the last couple of days. I thought yesterday the New Year's Day games were fantastic.
They were. I agree with you 100%. They were just tremendous. And I'm glad I didn't bet any money because I had Alabama winning and Texas. Even though I regret picking Texas to do anything great, it didn't hurt my feelings to see them lose. But nonetheless, it was a great. If you're a football fan, that was two games back to back that the networks got right, and I thought the announcers did a great job covering the game, making the game about the game, not themselves. So it was good stuff. I enjoyed it, and arguably the two best teams won.
I agree.
At least on Monday.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The 1 and 2 team both won, and they did what they had to do to make it happen. I thought they were excellent, well coached, all four teams. But Michigan to come back, Jim Harbaugh to go for it on his own territory. 4th and 2 with 3.5 minutes and 3 timeouts to have the guts to put it all on the line. It paid off for him. And then Washington to hold on at the end. You know, the poor guy gets hurt, the running back.
Right.
And it's basically a timeout, for Texas. It's one of those you have to school the guy. And don't get me wrong, players are hurt. They got to stay down. But if you can at all hop off the field or get a buddy to hop you off the field, that clock keeps ticking then,
right.
And then they don't have that opportunity at the end of the game.
No, they got a break on that deal. That timeout was so untimely,
right?
For Alabama, I guess, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, untimely for a while. It was Washington against Texas, but it really helped Texas.
Oh, yeah.
To have a chance there with 45 seconds at the end of the game. But you know all about this announcing now. American professional, you're a wrestling commentator for years and years, sports announcer. You got a weekly podcast. Back in the day, you were a wrestler. Anybody wants to have some enjoyment, go back and go through Wikipedia and learn about Jim Ross. Let's go back to high school, JR. Baseball player, captain of the football team, also basketball player, student body president. Talk about your love of sports going all the way back to high school.
Well, I said tongue-in-cheek about, wanting to play everything because it kept me away from the farm and the chores. And we had a 160-acre farm there in Westville, and there's always something to do. When you got animals, whether you got pet dogs or cats or whatever, there's maintenance.
Yeah.
And when you got cattle and you got horses and chickens and all this other stuff, there's always something to do. So I enjoyed my time away from the farm. And because my dad forgot I was a kid, he worked me like a man. And, I remember hauling hay in the summertime, and I suggested to my mother that she get me a pair of gloves so my hands would get so calloused in those strings of those bales of hay. And my dad put the kibosh on that deal. You wear no gloves, you're going to get your hands. He said that back in those days,
right?
You could head slap guys. So my hands got all callous and tough, and not unlike they are now, like little baby's hands. But I would hit that. I could hit that hole in the helmet
Yeah.
and had no problem doing it because they're going to do it to me first if I don't do it to them. So that was kind of where that
Yeah.
worked out. But I love sports. I was the only child, so I learned to read when I was like 4 or 5, and then my grandpa was a vociferous reader, and he took like 2 or 3 newspapers, and so I would have all those newspapers to practice on and ask what this word meant, things to that nature. So
Right.
I've always been a fan. Then you grew up in the shadow of Mickey Mantle there in northeastern Oklahoma. That was a big deal.
Now, when did you come to Oklahoma, JR? I know you were born in California. Did you come real young?
Yeah, I did. I started the first grade there in Oklahoma, and until the 3rd grade. Then Mom and Dad moved to California, so Dad could go to work in Northern California in a logging camp. So I stayed there, I think 2 years, but I was born there. Mom and Dad eloped. The rumor has it she might have been with child.
That's all right. She did good.
It worked out.
Yeah.
So that's California had a little piece of my heritage and legacy, I guess. But I'm sure glad I ended up in Oklahoma. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
In Northeast Oklahoma, what town in Northeast Oklahoma?
Westville.
Okay.
It's 25 miles east of Tahlequah, where Northeastern State is.
That's where you went to school, Northeastern State, right?
Yeah. I actually made a mistake. I went to school 1 semester at Oklahoma State, and I couldn't stand it. So I transferred down to a school I could manage a little bit better. And
don't bring that up again.
Yeah. I won't.
Now, you said you grew up in the shadow of Mickey Mantle. Did you ever run across Mickey Mantle?
Oh, yeah. Mickey Mantle I was on a couple of airplane flights with him. He'd fly from, I would fly. I officiated football for 20 years. So my last year, I didn't make any money. I lost money, but I kept my commitment to my football crew. And so I'd fly to Tulsa from Dallas sometimes. And every now and then he'd be on the flight, so we'd shoot the breeze. He was a half-assed wrestling fan. He gave me some advice one time. He said, "You should never date a woman with big hands." Okay,
we'll let that slide.
Yeah, he was just he was a character, and from Dallas to Tulsa was a less than an hour flight, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah,
and heck. He never stopped drinking. He always had, and Southwest Airlines is, all free booze at that point in time. So Mickey loved to drink and he loved the women. So boy, what a ball player he was.
What a great ball player. And what do you say if I had known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself.
That's it. He said that. Yeah. And the irony of that is he meant it. He was very self-abusive. He drank way too much.
Yeah.
But what a nice man, and he was proud of me, what I was accomplishing in a crazy, wacky world of pro wrestling. You don't run into too many guys, Bob, and you run into guys all the time, but you don't run into too many guys that have a background in pro wrestling. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but that's how it was for me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. When did you go through high school and you go to Northeastern State University, and how does the wrestling part of it evolve? And where did you did wrestle for a little bit, I believe, right? But then I know you really took off with the WWE. Really took off.
They made a rule early on that it was against the state and federal law to see JR in wrestling tights. So I didn't do too much wrestling. I got beat up a lot on TV skits, but nothing I would brag about. My win-loss record was not too stellar, but I had a lot of fun. What happened was I was going to school at Northeastern State. Our fraternity, Phi Lambda Chi, kind of the outlaws of the campus. The biggest thing that happened on campus was the toilet bowl. That was the fraternity title champions versus another school, another class, and it always came down to our group versus a black fraternity. And so then, of course, in the redneck world, that got to be a little heated. The game wasn't it was a touch football, but it really wasn't. So, but we need to raise some money to better our image, according to the president of the university. And so we called Championship Wrestling in Tulsa. They were doing benefit events. So in other words, they would come down, put a match on in your gym, would bring the stars and TV in, and fundraiser. So that's how I connected with wrestling. I met a guy named Cowboy Bill Watts, who's also an Oklahoma alumni. Played football for Bud Wilkinson and wrestled there as well. So Cowboy was a big OU guy, and so he was my mentor. He was my coach, and discovered me, as he says in his book. So I always
and I think that was
that.
1974, right?
Yeah. This year, Bobby, I'll be in the wrestling business 50 years.
How about that?
Just turned over that time frame. So I've always felt like having a 50-year career in anything is decent.
Boy, you're not kidding. Absolutely. 2007, you're inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame,
right,
by Stone Cold Stephen Austin.
Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with him. I know you guys are great friends, and if he inducts you into the Hall of Fame, and then some of your favorite moments, in that career, maybe that or decades or parts of that time.
Well, I went in the Hall of Fame in 2007. As you mentioned, in Detroit, we had a WrestleMania event at Ford Field, and it drew the largest crowd ever in that venue, including Super Bowls.
How many you think were there? How many were you roughly?
80,000.
How about that?
Yeah, wow. For pro wrestling. The McMahons made a lot of money that day. But that was on a card where we had Vince's hair versus Donald Trump's hair. So McMahon lost, he's got to shave his head, or vice versa for Trump. And of course, it was all set up for Trump to win, because he wouldn't have done it if he didn't win. And the only issue with Donald was an interesting guy. He just loved to talk to the ladies. I mean, man, oh man, he was passionate about meeting all the lovely ladies that worked for the company at that time.
Right.
And but he just was a character, to say the least.
Any particular period of time that you felt was really, maybe it was right then, that it was the best in what you were doing?
Well, doing the play-by-play on those WrestleManias is quite the honor. It's 16 camera shoot, live. There's no net. You can't go back and redo something. It's live. It's out there. So put a little pressure on you to do your best work on the first take. But any of those WrestleMania moments, we broke the record for attendance in the Astrodome, and that was kind of cool. That was Austin versus The Rock, 2 guys I recruited and 2 guys I signed.
What year would have been roughly?
Oh, that'd been about 2001.
Okay, and you signed them both?
Yeah, I did all the recruiting. A large part of the recruiting. My department did all the recruiting. I was EVP of talent relations, and so but I signed Austin and Rock and John Cena, Randy Orton, Dave Bautista, all these Hall of Fame level guys. I got lucky. Sometimes you get a class like that. I've read where Switzer signed some guys back in the day where he'd signed so many Texas guys. It was, it was amazing. Number 1 lineman, number 1 quarterback, number 1 this, that. So he just poached Texas with all the best players because he could recruit. And OU was a fun place to play, still is.
You're right.
So I had a good run there in that regard. All those big events, and then calling the matches. I did for my company now, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, is owned by Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan also owns the Jaguars, and he owns Fulham Football Club in England, soccer team. They call it football, but nonetheless, we know what football is, and they do soccer. So right. I'm not mad at them. They don't do football like we do football. So, but Mr. Khan is my owner, and a hell of a nice guy. we finally got a quarterback, and kid Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, and he's a little bit banged up, and ironically, he had never missed a game in high school or college because of
Right.
injury.
I know it.
But that's what they've been needing here. You and I can talk football all day, and we have over a
Yep.
beverage or two in the past. But he's what the Jaguars have been missing, a franchise quarterback. And we
Yep.
all know that I don't give a damn if you play for Norman North or Westville Yellow Jackets. You got to have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Somehow or
At
another, you got to
any,
have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback, Bobby. You know that better than me.
at any level of football, that's exactly right. But let's go back. I get a chance to work and bump into, The Rock, Dwayne
Right.
Johnson and his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, at some of our XFL games, now the UFL. We just announced our
Right.
merger
That's
with
cool.
the USFL, so it's going to be the UFL. Talk about recruiting him, or how'd that come about? It's been so successful for him, and all that he's transitioned from wrestling to entertainment has really been a heck of a success story.
Well, Rock's grandfather, Peter Maivia, was a legit stud. Nobody screwed with the high. I think he was the high. His body was all tattooed up, and old school tattoos by hand. It was hard to believe that he would do that. But the high chief was a bad dude, and even though wrestling was showbiz, it still is. If you need to be real, he could be real. And so he was Rock's grandfather. So Rock's father, Rocky Johnson, was one of the more successful African American wrestlers. And of course, Rock's mother is Samoan. His dad's black, and so he had a unique upbringing, mostly in Pennsylvania. He was a USA Today All-American, and he was a great high school player. Went to the U, played for those Outlaws, and fit in real well. He did really well there, and he's still got so many friends. Now that he's famous and rich and famous, he's moved to the head of the class. So, but he was just he was out of work. He wanted to play pro football. So he didn't get drafted by the NFL. They didn't take a chance on him. But he got a chance to play for the Calgary Stampeders. And of all things, he was on the Calgary Stampeders practice squad. The most visible story he found a mattress in an alley that was urine stained. He told me, and that's what he took to his little efficiency apartment, and he slept on the floor on that mattress because he wanted to make the team and become a football star, and then maybe work his way back into the NFL. But he didn't last that long. He got cut. And I said, man, it's pretty humbling to get cut from the friggin' practice squad of the Calgary Stampeders. And so he came back to Florida. Had gone to school at the U, grew up in high school or in the early college years in Florida. And he one of his dad's buddies who worked for us said, Rocky Johnson's got a kid that wants to get in the business. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, he's a good-looking kid, too. He's 6'4", 5", about 260, 280, somewhere in that. He's a defensive. He had his hand down.
Right.
Defensive lineman. And so I met with him and offered him a job on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, God Almighty, look at him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the kind of guy. Men like wrestlers that when you walk through the airport that you would notice as a civilian. And you're going to notice Dwayne. He's a good-looking guy. He's got that unique ethnicity. He's 6'4", 5", as I said. He had a great body. His dad was a bodybuilder type guy. His grandpa was a tank. So I signed Rock for the biggest deal that we'd ever signed anybody.
Wow.
As for a rookie. And I know when I told McMahon what I'd done, he looked at me like I was crazy. He looked at me with a side eye. You paid him what? So I said, well, it's going to work out. I promise you. This guy's a can't miss. He said, I've heard you say that before, JR. I said, well, let time will tell, right, Vince? So it did. And so The Rock became The Rock, and he became what he is today. He's one of the most famous personalities in the world.
Right.
Absolutely. And Bobby, I find it interesting. You mentioned Danny. I saw them on ESPN this weekend. I think during college game day.
Right, they
They're
were.
great representatives of the league and the entity known as pro football, this spring football. I think that's awesome. But I also find it impressive that they, as ex-husband and wife, they have the ability and the intellect to get along. They don't harbor grudges. They don't say, well, you went
Right.
out on me or you did this or what. It's nothing. They just grew
Right.
apart. But they stayed buddies and they stayed business associates because she's brilliant. She's a smart woman.
Absolutely.
So you got good leadership there, I think, and I think it's going to be hopefully it's going to create some new rivalries this year. And
Sure.
coaching staffs are pretty damn loaded, including yourself at the top of the list. So I saw Wade Phillips is coming back. That's always nice to see him on the sideline.
He's going to be with the San Antonio team.
Yeah. So that's good.
They're great to work with. Danny and Dwayne both, and great people. And I'm with you. I really enjoyed it last year, and with most everyone coming back, it's a few different teams. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the merger's supposed to be complete, I think, by the end of this week.
That's cool.
And then we'll move forward with it. But it'll be exciting. But we got another former Sooner that you got into wrestling. Guy that played for me a year or two, Jacob Hager.
Yeah.
Back in the day was a defensive end for us. Talk about how Jacob, I understand he's doing great.
Yeah, he's made a good career out of pro wrestling. I got him into WWE. He's just so damn athletic, big, rangy guy. Remind me of Ted Hendricks. Remember Ted Hendricks played defensive end for the Raiders way back in the day, the Mad Stork?
Sure. Yeah.
Jake's is lean and long, and so I remember him sitting on my couch in Norman, had his feet up on the coffee table till my wife walked in the room, and she, in no uncertain terms, told him get your damn feet off my table. So he jumped down like a little kid got caught in his hand in a cookie jar. He wrestled at OU. He was a 3-time All-American wrestling at OU. But the problem he had in football, just my own unbiased opinion, he played behind Dusty Dvorak and Tommy Harris. You're not getting on the field anytime soon.
Right.
He come I don't know if the right place at the wrong time or wrong place, right time, whatever, but he's still dyed in the wool Sooner guy, and his dad lives in Norman, and sometimes I'm back there and I go to watch the wrestling, and his dad will be there. So but Jake's done good. He saved us money. He's got a couple of kids. So I think that's the key thing about these guys. It's kind of the same thing in the NFL or any other league. You divorce and bad marriages can really create a lot of conundrums, a lot of problems. And so he's one of those guys that hasn't had those issues, and I think that's smart on his behalf.
And take care of your money while you're young, right? And then
right.
it grows. Absolutely.
Yeah,
we got another common friend. Let's talk about. I haven't seen him in a good while, but his wife was a big time Gator, Ric Flair. When I was with the Sooners, had gotten to be around Rick several times, and then with you, we all shared a few pops when he was in town a good little while back,
right?
At Louis Bar and Grill. But how's Rick doing?
He's doing good. He's working for the Cons now and doing some PR type stuff. Okay. He's always going to be a benefit because everybody knows who he is. He's got great name identity. You ain't got to sell it. Who's this Flair guy? Everybody knows who Ric Flair is. They might not want to admit it because if they admit it, they got to admit they actually used to watch pro wrestling, and a lot of guys' ego won't allow that, for God's sakes. So, but he's doing well. I think he lives in Tampa. His health issues seem to be behind him, so he's doing well there. And but Rick's he's a great guy. He's a character. He's one of those legitimate. He reminds me a lot. The first character I met in wrestling, Bobby, was Wahoo McDaniel.
Okay.
Played in the NFL, played in the AFL.
Oh, yeah.
Played at OU. Had a 97-yard punt one time at Owen Field. Wahoo was a bigger than life character, and Flair was mentored by Wahoo. So he had a lot of those Wahoo crazy man traits. I remember taking a rental car back with Flair, Wahoo, and myself to Asheville, North Carolina, and Wahoo was driving. He pulled right up on the sidewalk in front of the entranceway to the airport and left the car. So we're going to do the car. He said, "Don't worry about the car; they'll take care of it." So when they said they'll take care of it, who? First of all, who's they? Who's they? And so we left the car there, and I never heard anything more about it. And I think he might have given the car person or a security person $20 or something to handle it. But Wahoo was that kind of guy. But he was influential to Flair.
Yeah.
And Flair now is so influential to so many younger guys. They look up to him because arguably Rick's the best at his performance art that anybody's ever been. I've known a lot of guys. Stone Cold was, like I said, you mentioned him earlier. He's a dear friend and a huge star. I remember giving him a check one time for $1 million for a quarter worth of T-shirt sales. He made so much money it's not even funny. But he got hot. Stone Cold, Austin 316. Stuff. So and then of course Rock came along. So I had some good recruiting classes. That makes you look awful smart. That's
how long do you think Rick has been at it now? When would he have started?
He started in the early 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, he started right before I did. I started in 74. I think he started in 72.
Yeah.
So he's went through some health issues. I think he likes to party. He likes to drink. I was with him one night in a Holiday Inn bar where he ordered 137 kamikazes. There wasn't 137 people staying in the hotel. That's just Nate.
I can't imagine the stories, and we can't put them all on tape here, but you could tell stories for a week, I'm sure. Let's talk about your true passion, OU football.
Yeah.
I'm elated. I know, I'd love to have won our last game, all of that, but just in 2 years, what Brent's done, and I just love what he stands for, what he preaches, even as assistant coaches, how hard and how well they're recruiting, and I just feel they're going to really make a mark and going to really, build this team into a very successful. And a team that can win an SEC championship, definitely.
Well, I think that's all of our goals. We all hope that's going to happen. I think, without a doubt, Joe Castiglione hired the right guy. There's no doubt in my mind he hired the right guy. He had a hard act to follow. Thank goodness you were standing by at one point in time to come in and salvage, help coach his team, and it worked out pretty well. After what's his name left, went to Southern Cal. But Brent's he's the right guy.
Yeah,
he all the time on airplanes. What do you think of your coach? Because like last year, we were one game below 500. I said, well, if you're trying to get me to say we should have thought the hire through longer, I can't, because I don't believe that. I believe that we hired the right guy. And
I do too.
I think everybody's very pleased with the fact that he's our head coach, and
absolutely
his job to hire good people. That's
right.
part of the gig. You can teach them block and tackle and show up on time and all those good things, but you gotta have a foundation, and Brent's going to build a good foundation. He's already starting to build a good foundation, and it's going to be really interesting next year to see where. I was just watching that Alabama game. So hell, we play Alabama in Norman on Thanksgiving week.
Right.
That's going to be huge.
Oh yeah. No, and I think too many people they want to just wipe away. When Lincoln walked out of here, what that did to the team. I mean, it was devastating to the players, and just a jolt,
right,
and a shock to everybody, and the players are affected by it. And to think they're not going to be a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds isn't realistic, as well as then so certain pieces leave. You don't just all of a sudden sweep that under the rug and keep winning, and just keep winning.
You can't erase people's memories or the good moments. You want to embellish the good moments and build on those. And we have plenty of good moments there, of course, when you were there. you know, it wasn't all bad with Lincoln, but the way he left, the
No.
way he's conducted himself, and he hadn't figured out he's got to hire a good defensive staff because he don't know anything about defense apparently.
Well, I just thought the players were really scarred, and to think that just goes away,
Right.
and you just keep winning 10, 11, 12 games. That's not being, that there's more to it than that. And I just feel it was really positive in year 2 to go 10-2 and get to the bowl game. Again, some missing pieces in the bowl game. Everyone's experiencing some of that. But, so I feel really positive about the direction and really just believe they'll continue to build on it.
Hey, the recruiting's been amazing.
Right.
Whether depending on what poll you believe or you trust the most, it's anywhere from 6 to 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's a hell of a class. That's a hell of a class. So we can't say, the fans can't say, well, if we'd have done better recruiting, we'd have had a better season. We're doing really well recruiting.
Right.
We're getting the players. The thing I noticed, and of course you coached in the SEC. God dang, Bobby, those linemen are huge.
Yeah.
Size is a premium, and they're so big and so mobile and so thick.
Yeah. It used to be JR 300 was big.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not 325 or more, that you're small, right?
That's right. That's right. It's hard to believe, but they're big and they're athletic super heavyweights. They're athletic as hell, So and he's getting into that. Beadenbow's. I believe, of course, my home in Norman is just around the corner from Beadenbow's. He's one of my neighbors. Right. A great guy. Great guy.
Yep.
I think he's as good offensive line coach there is in the country.
Agreed.
Look at all the people he moves on to the next level.
That's right. There's a million of them, and proof is he could go anywhere he wants. Somebody'd hire him tomorrow.
Right.
Half the NFL teams, as well as about every college team, would be in line to have a chance to hire him. No question about it. Talk about what are some of your, you've been following the Sooners so long. What are some of your favorite moments?
A lot of them have to do with you when you arrived on the scene, but my first OU game was OU versus Colorado in Norman, and Steve Owens was a starting tailback. Okay. And I had end zone seats. I played in a high school football game the night before, and then came up early that morning with a buddy of mine who had the tickets. And so they were in the end zone, which was cool. I hadn't been to the stadium. I hadn't been anywhere that big in my life, so it was really neat to me. But watching Steve Owens run, I saw right away the major difference in high school and college football.
Right. And people don't realize, if you hadn't been around Steve, that's a big man. That's back in the 60s.
Yeah.
He's a big man today.
He was
for a running back.
Yeah, 6'3", 215, 220.
Exactly.
That's what they used to say about Jim Brown. Jim Brown was amazing because of his strength and his size. And Steve Owens was a lot like that. He ran north and south. It's hard to get him off his schedule. I think that game he scored 3 or 4 touchdowns. They're all short runs, but they were conclusive. There was no doubt he got in the end zone. He was a stud boy, and I always enjoy running into Steve when I'm back in Norman. He's one of my favorite people, and he's a living legend in OU football in my view. So
absolutely agreed. And they wore him out when he was there. They got their money's worth handing the ball to him, didn't they?
Yeah,
30, 40 times a game.
That one game, I think he had a 59 carry game against Oklahoma State.
He did.
So that was crazy. I mean, it's like a kid now would go to his mom. He might go to his mom and daddy and say, they're killing me here. I can't keep up. This is hard. 59 carries in a game is unmerciful. So he did it. He carried the ball and he didn't back away. He's tough. And, and Tinker, who wasn't supposed to be great, became a great receiver. Oh,
great receiver. Yeah, absolutely.
That Owens DNA seemed to work out real well for everybody. So, but that was my first memory of going to an OU game. Now, in those days, they were on TV twice a year.
Right.
They were on TV for the Texas game, and we were on TV for the Nebraska game, which was played Thanksgiving week. similar to this Alabama scenario I briefly mentioned.
Right.
So they weren't overexposed. Now every game's on television, and I don't know how special the kids. Do your players in the XFL do they recognize that they is their needle moved by the fact that they're on TV a lot?
Oh, absolutely. And and it's truly for them. They love it's a platform for them to show we can still play.
Right.
And we've had a good number of guys get picked up by the NFL to go to have a chance at the league again, whether it be practice squad or to show that they can still play. And we've had guys make it. So, that's what it's all about. That's what you want. And so they know when they're on TV. It makes a difference to them. Definitely.
When these guys get on an NFL team, a 53-man roster, or get a fair shot, that's when the league will start growing even more, because obviously that's the coup de grace, getting a players recognized by the NFL, bringing to camp, and then making the team, contributing.
Right.
And I think that's
and I think too, with the merger of the league USFL with the XFL to make the UFL, there's half the teams now, so there's still 8 teams, but we're not splitting them into 2 leagues. So there's going to be better overall talent on the field and competition and everything that we're doing. So that's exciting too.
How was the officiating last year? Because being an old official, I kind of keep my eye on those guys, and a lot of them I recognize from calling college games. Did you find the officiating to your liking?
I did. I thought they were really good. Here and there, somebody might get a little too picky, but that was rare. I thought they did an excellent job overall with a few different rules. But I thought the officials were really good. And like you said, a lot of them are all from major conferences. So I'm looking around and like, I remember that guy. I remember that guy. And we get to talking about certain games that they, might have officiated when I was here at OU. So anyway, it's really good. But, well, JR, I'm coming down your way to Jacksonville here shortly. So I'm going to come find you. We're going to have a couple beers together.
Yes, sir. At least 2. And as long as they're cold, I'm in, so it's great.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
I enjoyed talking with you today, Bobby. So I'm glad you're doing this podcast. I look at them when I find them online. I watched the one you did with Toby, which was cool. And boy, he's got a tough fight, but he's fighting.
I know it. He's fighting it though. So
yes,
we're all praying for him. You know that. But yeah, you could go to selloutcrowd.com and find them. And listen. You're kind to do this, JR. If the world knows, I don't need to tell anyone out there, you are known worldwide. I mean, you'll go over to Asia, there'll be people stand in line for 45 minutes an hour to get your autograph, right?
Yeah.
You can be honest, say it.
Yeah, well, it gets humbling. Same thing, we had a show last summer in Wembley Stadium. We did 80,000 and something.
Wow.
Thousand fans. It was pretty impressive. But getting out of the airport was I was the first time I was ever really scared, because they wanted to see all of us so badly, and then they'd find out what flights we were on, and then they'd camp out, and so they didn't want to take no for an answer. They wanted something signed. So basically you just try to talk them out of I got to sign everybody's autograph. How about we just take pictures? Yeah, that's a simpler deal.
Have the phone ready and keep snapping, right?
That's it, buddy.
Yeah,
that's it. So you're the
best. You're the best, JR. I always enjoy seeing you and visiting with you. We'll stay in touch, of course. And again, I'm gonna be down there in a week. I'm gonna come find you.
I'm not hard to find. I'm the king of the beach. You just won't see me in a Speedo or nothing. Hey, I got to tell this real quick story. Take 30 seconds. When my wife Jan got killed in March of 17.
God bless her. Beautiful woman.
Yeah, she was the best. Nice little Catholic girl from Pittsburgh. She was a flight attendant. That's how I met her. And love at first sight. Married 26 years. Jan. She got killed there in Norman, coming to our house there at the Shadowview Court. And she was making a turn into our neighborhood, and this kid was following her, was on his phone. And he ran over and killed her. So I'm in a fog, and not sure, you're not prepared. If I'm doing wrestling or you're doing football, there's very few things that you can show me in those worlds that I haven't experienced or I don't know how to handle.
Right.
I can handle this. I didn't know how to handle that. Because you can't prepare for it. And she was a sweetheart. She didn't deserve, I thought, well, hell, if anybody's going to go first, it'd be me. Drink, smoke, overweight. But I have, since I got sugar diabetes, I've lost about 30 pounds weight-wise, so that's good. Good. But Bobby and his wife, Carol, came to my home unannounced. I don't know if they even knew I was home. Maybe he called me or something. But anyway, they came by and spent the afternoon. I remember it was during March Madness, and we watched a little basketball, shot the breeze, and I can't tell you what that meant to me. And I still talk about the people. When I talk, how do you know Coach Stoops? Oh, yeah, I got a good story for you. So I told that story on radio around the country. So he's a good man. And that's kind of how we talked about Brent. Brent's a good man.
Absolutely.
He's a good human being. And Bobby, you and Carol are great people. And that meant a lot to me that day. And it still means a lot to me all these years later.
Thinking back on, like, Jan was a beautiful lady, a big spirit.
Yep.
And like you said, I got to thinking, how do you handle this? And so Carol and I just wanted to come give you a hug and hang out and not just acknowledge, be there for you,
right.
Just in your company. And just because we also just couldn't imagine there's no way to handle it. So just wanted to be with our friend. You know that.
I appreciate it. Well, it was very heart taken. I still talk about it all these years later, so it's important to me, and your friendship's important to me. And anything I can do for you and your show, let me know, and we'll do it. But I'm glad you're doing all kinds of stuff. You're still promoting the tequila.
Oh yeah, rock and roll tequila. Still working on that, and I've become the busiest retired guy in the country. Maybe. Well, you're not retired though, but yeah, it seems like there's always something every day. But yeah, rock and roll tequila is still going pretty strong, really strong.
My contract is up February 14th in this 50th year of this profession, and I'm not sure how we're going to proceed with it. I may say that's enough. Flying every week like I did for so many years, you don't realize the wear and tear it takes on your body and your mind.
That's a lot.
And now flying is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Sold out flights, there are less flights, they're all packed, more kids crying, God bless them. So I got a decision to make in the next month or so if I'm going to stay doing what I'm doing. Nowadays it's such a neat deal. I don't understand it, but I can work every weekend and make money by just signing my name at a card show.
Right.
There's card shows are everywhere. So you can go out there and make yourself, 10 grand or so for a couple of hours of signing. I got a short name. It's got 7 letters in it. Hell, I don't care. I'm ready. I'm in. Book me. Let's go. So I've always got things I can do. And my third book is coming out in April. And we've got that done. So I got to do the audio book, read the audio book of that, and that'll be fun. It's always kind of fun. Because I go off script and I ad lib and I talk about probably some stuff I shouldn't talk about. But in any event, they sold, and that's the main thing. The publisher's happy, so it's all good. So I'm living a good life, Bobby. I've been very blessed, and
you deserve it, buddy. Really love the person you are. You've always been a dear friend to me, and appreciate you being a great and loyal Sooner fan too. And everyone, when they introduce you in front of any audience, they play Boomer Sooner when JR is coming on stage, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm married to it. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. It's a blessing to me, but it's a curse when you're around the enemy.
Yeah.
I have a video wall, so when I get introduced at a live event, they play my video wall. It's got Boomer Sooner under it. Some clips. It doesn't get over real big in Austin.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so.
Good old JR is not nearly as popular in Austin as he is in other places, but
yeah, that's okay.
Oh yeah, we know who's the king.
That's right. That's right.
So we're it. Anyway, I really enjoyed this, and you and I we don't talk enough, and I really appreciate you having me on. If nothing else, just shoot the breeze with you and talk a little football. And hey,
absolutely.
Is Drake going to go to the NFL? You think?
Well, he hopes to, definitely. That's what he wants and what he is working for. So, like all these guys, they work hard for it. So they want to play as long as they can. So hopefully he'll get with the right team and have that right opportunity.
All right. He reminds me of Wes Welker,
right?
Type guy.
Yep.
He's not going to overwhelm you with his size and his blazing speed, but he's got all the elements in place to make himself a very viable player.
Yep.
And I got this morning thinking about, I wonder, would it be ironic if he played for Bobby in the XFL or in the new league?
Well, hopefully he gets the first opportunity in the NFL and can make a mark there. There's a lot of those guys that are out there that are playing, know. So, well, Happy New Year again, JR, and I'm going to find you here this coming week.
Just let me know. You know how to get a hold of me. We'll meet up, have you come over. We'll do whatever we need to do.
All right, Boomer Sooner, buddy.
Boomer Sooner, Bobby. Take care. I love you.
Love you, bro. That wraps up this installment of Conversations with Coach. Follow and subscribe to this channel and visit selloutcrowd.com to find out about upcoming programs.